Hi, I'm Rachel Engel. I'm a computer security analyst with ISEG Partners, and I spend most of my time doing web security. So I spend a lot of time. Looking at the security websites, and a lot of time doing analysis of that. And really, there's sort of two ways to do that. You always use a proxy, and there's a couple of major proxies. There's Web Scarab, and there's Burp Proxy, and there's a number of others, and they're all fairly complicated. They're all fairly complicated. They have a lot of attacks that they do for you, which is very nice. But I find myself, I know how the attacks work, and I know how to perform them. And so my problem isn't so much with needing automated attacks. I don't want a complicated tool. What I find myself doing over and over and over is doing one thing. I go through my session after I've been looking around a website. I want to search for a certain string in a certain page. I want to edit that request, and then I want to send that, whether I'm editing the parameters of a web form or whether I'm editing a cookie. That's really the one thing I do over and over. And before I was a security analyst, I was a programmer. And so my first thought was, I need a tool to do this well and to do this easily and to do this simply. And so I built Gizmo. Gizmo is an open source proxy. It's a GPL, so you can download it and contribute source. You can get it right now off from either ISEG Partners or from Google Code. So on the sort of spectrum there, from complicated app scanner to wget, Gizmo sort of falls near the simple end of the spectrum. I really like simple tools, the kind of interactive tools that you can use on Unix and whatnot that are interoperable with a variety of other tools. That's sort of my favorite. That's sort of my favorite tool to use. So Gizmo is more in that style. So simple is good. This is Web Scarab. That's a little more complicated. This is Gizmo. There's almost nothing there but web requests. And you can try it. It's free. I'll come back to this in a moment, but I'll get straight to the demo because that's sort of the important part here. So I'll start up Gizmo. And there we have it. And I will go over here, start proxying. And so let's see. Let's go to Flickr because that's got some nice big images. Oh yeah, no. Yeah. Sorry about that. Can you see it now? I'll make it a lot smaller. There we go. I have it at 124, but looks like it's not working. Okay, so this is Gizmo. These are all the requests. For moving up and down, you can use the arrow keys, or you can use VI keys as God intended. You can going to the end is end home, but it's really it's all keyboard driven, as you can see. I'm not using the mouse at all. There's a request. There's a response to the request. And if there's one thing that I do over and over, as I said, it's search, edit, and send. And so there we go. I want to edit that. And so I open up my little editor here. Let's make an edit that won't change anything, that won't bother the server at all. So I'll just remove something from the user agent, and I'll send it. And that is searching, editing, and sending in Gizmo. It's very quick. Absolutely. I did it. Let's see. Edit. Oh yeah, this monitor isn't actually making all the way up, is it? Okay, can you see it now? Okay. So I'll edit that again so you can see it. So I've edited it, and when I hit escape, it closes that window, and that immediately copies the contents of that window that I was editing into the main window. And as you can see now, there's just the URL and a request. And when I hit S, that sends it, and then the response is there that you can look at. And so that was sort of what it was optimized for. It was optimized for it was optimized for actual pen testing for the kinds of things you're going to do. You're going to go through, you're going to look at a site, you're going to want to find a request that had a form on it that you're going to get a cross-site scripting or SQL injection through. You're going to want to come up with your attack string, send it, and be done. And that's what Gizmo's good at. The other thing it's good at is interoperating with other tools. One question I kind of had when I was going through and building it was, there are a lot of things you want to do when manipulating requests. If you're looking at a binary that's coming back, pretty much what everybody wants to do is run a hex editor. And there are a number of Java hex editors, but they're not quite as nice. However, there are a number of wonderful hex editors for Windows and Linux and Mac OS X and whatnot. And so if you want to actually look at the response here, the easiest way is to use a hex editor. And sorry, I'm going to have to shrink this down because it looks like smell getting up there. But what Gizmo does is, so if you get this response, it copies the response to disk, puts the file name in an environment variable, and then lets you use it from whatever your favorite command line tool is. And so, like, instead of using a Java hex editor, you can just use ONO. And there's the request in ONO. And after the process exits, whatever the contents of the file that this request you can see in the buffer there got written to will be copied back into the buffer. So basically, you edit it in whatever script or program you want and save it back to disk in that file that's in that environment variable. The instructions for this are all on the web page, so I'll give you that URL in a minute. And when that shell command finishes executing, it copies it back in here. So you can edit it in your text editor, you can edit it in VI, you can edit it in Python. That's what we do. We usually write little Python scripts that edit the requests or whatnot. It works on Linux, works on Windows, works on Mac OS X. It works on whatever has Java 1.6 for it. And then you can send it. That's the end of it. And that is Gizmo. It is freely available right now. I should go over the major commands, I suppose. So you move up and down with the arrow keys, beginning and end. If you want to intercept requests, this is actually kind of a tricky point. If you want to intercept requests, you click the intercept button here. Refresh. The intercepted request shows up here. To send it, you hit S, and once it's sent, it moves over to the summary pane. But other than that, the commands are the exact same as the main summary pane where you see most of your sessions. So I send that, and it's going to come up with a couple more requests here. And you can edit those and do whatever you like. It's intercept and turning intercepting off. You can either click the button, or again, you can do this from the keyboard. And now they're over in the summary pane. And that is Gizmo. It's meant for quick and easy penetration testing of websites. And actually, that one's pretty short. So I'll get you back on the slide here, and I'll get this up to the URL that has the URL you can download Gizmo from. You can get it from iSec Partners. If you go to isecpartners.com/tools, there's a copy of it there. It's also on code.google.com as Gizmo Proxy. Also, if you find any bugs or if you have any features that you've wanted in a web proxy, this is actively developed, and by actively developed, I mean if you send me an email, I'll probably work on it, or I'll find a way to make Gizmo do what you want for you. So, and if you contribute source code, it will get patched back into the source tree. And you can email us at blackhat@isecpartners.com, and that's what I have to present. So I'm going to open it up to questions. This is actually a really good point. I do support secure traffic. A friend of mine wrote this tool that makes this very easy. So what it does is, I'll sort of gloss over the technical specifics, but the first time you use SSL, it generates, actually the first time you're on Gizmo, it generates a cert on disk, and you import it into either Firefox or IE, and there's a module in Gizmo that hooks onto that, and it sort of will ensure that you will never have an SSL warning when you're pen testing. It rewrites the whole thing as you're using it. So as long as you include that cert in your trusted root certs, it will all just kind of work. And that's generated uniquely. There's not one that's given out with every version of Gizmo. It's generated on the fly. So you have one cert that you trust that nobody else has. And it will let you seamlessly intercept SSL traffic. So after you import it that first time, there's no further work required to use SSL, and no more monkeying about the mat. Any other questions? I've kind of gone back and forth on that, and actually, like, if anybody has an opinion on that, I'll take it into consideration. I definitely can. It's not in there right now, but support for it is it's about a one-line change. Java regular expressions are different than Unix regular expressions, and one thing I found when in tools that use the Java regular expression libraries is that's kind of not terribly most intuitive thing on earth, because the syntax is slightly different. So that was sort of more of a decision to just do string matching. But I can, if there's enough requests for it, I'll certainly include our regular expressions. I can make that change pretty quick. Anyone else? Is it which? Oh, can I use an Explorer? Oh, and reuse the request? Save the whole session. You cannot save the session in a way that would, if I think I understand what you're saying, it would be nice if all the requests were persisted to disk, and then you could browse it on disk in Internet Explorer like a website that's cached to disk. You can't do that right now, but I know how to do it.
Could you share some more of the keyboard shortcuts that you put into there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the keyboard commands. I'm using, these are the arrow keys. I have some friends that like arrow keys. Home and end also work. So kind of the commands that you would expect to work on, in any sort of Windows console tool work. But also the command, as I said, it works nicely with if your hands are bound to VI like mine are, then moving up and down with J and K is going to do what you think. And moving to the begin and end by hitting Shift G and Shift H is also going to work. Let's see, actually, God, that screen is giving me trouble. Can you see it now? Okay, good. So you can move to the beginning and end with G and H. Expanding a request is hitting Enter, and that expands it. Oh, that's probably pretty big. Let's see, there we go. Expanding it is Enter, contracting it is Enter. So that's just a toggle. And editing it is E for edit. And when you hit E for edit, it opens up the editor that acts as a text editor. If you just edit this text, then it'll do what you think. It'll edit the text, and that's what you'll send. If you muck with it from the command line, and actually I should highlight, like, this really is just a command line. Let's see, there you go. Hi. Let's see, and also, let's see, echo. So this is going to echo the file name that the request is stored in. So this is really, really interoperable with the shell. And after you're done editing in this window, I should actually point this out. So I have this buffer contents here in this window. And when you hit escape, the contents gets copied down to the summary window. And as you can see it right here at the very bottom where the green is, that's the request with the contents that I've just edited. I think I actually removed some useful parts of it, so you can kind of see that that the end of the user agent has been removed. So that's the request, and at present it isn't sent. So when you hit S for send, it sends it on. Some more of the commands are, if you move over to the intercept tab, if you hit the toggle that switches it to intercept mode, as you can see at the top, it says intercepting. It's proxying on port 8080. This is actually another good point. If you want to put it on something else, there you go. Now it's proxying on port 1234. And so if I want it to be, oh, you can't see that? Jeez. Can you see it now? Okay, it's proxying on part 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's how you can tell whether it's intercepting or not. You can see at the top title bar, it says intercepting. Not intercepting. I'll actually have my Firefox right now set to port 8080. So I got to save that back. Get back there. Okay, I'll put it back in intercepting mode. And that's Control I also. If you hit Control I, it also turns on intercepting mode on and off. And let's see. And again, to search, you click on the little input bar up there, and that's searching. Let's see, that's a string that's in there. Let's see, I must have hit that wrong. Apologize. But at any rate, so those are the major commands for Gizmo. Any more questions?
Does this work compression?
It doesn't support compression and decompression in Gizmo, but you know, you can. What we do for that, I actually went back and forth on this. At one point, I had things like compression, decompression, and base64 encoding and URL encoding and whatnot in the UI. But you can also do it from the command line with Python scripts, or with Perl or Bash or PowerShell or whatever your favorite scripting environment is. And so if there's some extra encoding that's being applied on top of the standard encoding like base64 or URL encoding or whatnot, then that it's much easier to edit your script on the fly than it is to go in and modify Gizmo and recompile and start running it again. So we do that instead. So doing that from a standard library is much easier to do. Any more questions? Anyone else? Okay, that looks like all the questions. So I'd like to thank I'll get them on the screen. I'd like to thank iSeg Partners, and I'd like to thank Black Hat, and I'd like to thank all the people that helped out in testing it and in beta phase, like a cast of dozen. And again, if you email us at blackhat@isegpartners.com, you'll instantly receive this and all iSeg presentations and tools. And again, it's I'll leave this up. It's on code.google.com as Gizmo Proxy, and it has a way to get in touch with me at email there. There's a wiki. It's actively developed, and if you send me email or if you post something to the wiki, I can guarantee your response. Thank you.